Alright, so we're moving on to lesson 15 quiz. This is in preparation for a quarterly exam. This is in the study guide. So, Eleanor deposited 20% of the money that she earns each week in a savings account. If Eleanor earns $85 each week, how much money will she deposit each week? So, you always want to know what you're trying to find. We're trying to find out how much will she deposit each week. So we know what we're trying to find. We're going to write our given information to answer that question. So what given information do we have? I'm going to squeeze it up here. So we have, she deposits 20%. 20% is what she deposits, and that is going to be a part, obviously. And we also know that we're looking for how much she deposits. So what the percent needs to be equivalent to the variable, whatever equation we use to find our answer. We also know that she earns $85 each week. So $85 is what she earns, and that is going to be the whole. That's everything that she earns. So that is going to be the whole. So we're going to use the formula part equals percent of whole. And since we're looking for a part, we're looking for the part that she deposits, so we're going to put a variable right here. Bring down your equal sign. The percent is 20%. So we write it as a fraction of decimal. So percent is per 100. Of is to multiply, and the whole is 85. Now, since this 20% represents what she deposits, equivalent to that is going to be the part that she deposits. And then we need to solve for our variable or get the value of the variable by getting the variable on one side of the equal sign. We already have the variable on one side of the equal sign by itself, so we don't have to do any special calculations. We just have to change our whole number 85 into a fraction. You can do that, you don't have to. We can simplify this, divide the numerator and denominator by 10. And then we'll have 2 times, we can change this to 2/10, or you can keep it as a fraction. Let's keep it as a fraction. 2 times 85 for the numerator. So we can do 85 times 2 on the side, and then 10, and then 16, 17. So 170 for the numerator, and then for the denominator we have 10 times 1, which is 10. So we have, then we need to finish 170 divided by 10. And you don't need to write this out. You can just divide the numerator and denominator by 10, which is canceling out a 0. 17 divided by 1 is equivalent to 17. So since the 20% was what she deposited, equivalent to that is going to be the part that she deposited. So X is the part that she deposited, and since that is the answer that we're looking for, we know we're finished with that question. Moving on to question number 2. I'm going to scroll this up. So, Greg practiced playing his clarinet for 12 minutes. He has practiced 40% of the amount of time he needs to practice today. How many more minutes does Greg need to practice? Now, a lot of students substitute and can finish. No, you have to make sure you answer the question. So the question that we want to answer is, how many more minutes does Greg needs to practice? So we need to write down our given information that's going to help us answer that question. So we have Greg practiced his clarinet for 12 minutes. So 12 minutes is what he practiced already. And then we also know that 40%, he has practiced 40%. So 12 minutes is equivalent to 40%. And what does this 40% represent if you practice? That's all we have. So we're going to use a formula, our percent formula. Part is equal to the percent of the whole. And we're going to substitute our given information. So the part that he practiced needs to be equivalent to the percent part that he practiced. So the 12 minutes must be the part. 12 minutes is equivalent to 40 hundredths per 40 per 100 of the whole, which is x. Then we need to solve for the variable. So I'm going to change my fraction to a decimal. So 4/10 as a decimal is going to be 4/10 times x. I can write it like this, bring down my 12, and then I need to solve for my variable. What does it mean to solve for the variable? Get the variable on one side of the equal sign by itself. So since I have 4/10 times x, I need to divide both sides by 4/10 to isolate the variable. 4/10 times x divided by 4/10 is going to be equivalent to x, 1x. So I'm going to have x, bring down your equal sign, and then I need to do 12 divided by 4/10. I'm going to do that here. 12 divided by 4/10. My divisor needs to be a whole number, so I multiply by the power of 10. 12 times 10 is 210. And then I divide
120.
4 goes into 12. 3 times 4 is 12. And then I subtract and I get 30. So what does this 30 represent? Well, 30 is represented by the variable x. Where does the variable x represent? The whole. Since I put the variable into the whole position, when I solve for the variable, I'm going to get the whole, which in this case represents the total amount of time. So 30 minutes is the total time that he needs to practice. Now, does that answer the question? How many more minutes does Greg need to practice? Absolutely not. Since we put the variable into the whole position, we found the whole, not the answer to the question. If we wanted to find the answer to the question, we have to subtract the total amount of time minus what he's already practiced, and then we'll get our answer, which is 18. So he needs to practice for 18 more minutes. So you can think of it like this: 100% of the time, 100% of the time is going to be equivalent to, 30 minutes. So 30 minutes is 100% of the time. I'm going to write that. 30 minutes is 100% of the time. So 40%, it's a little under that. 40% is going to be what he already practiced. So what does that mean? He needs to practice for 60 more percent. So 40% is equivalent to 12 minutes. So what is 60% equivalent to? 18 minutes. So it's just an equivalent ratio. 100% of the time, 100% of the total time. 12 plus 18 is 30. 40 plus 60 is 100%. So it's just an equivalent ratio. That's all the percent is, a ratio that compares a number to 100. Speaking of that, we can use that to answer question number 3. You can pause the video and read the question on your own. But I see a part to whole ratio right here. We need to order these from greatest to least. So I see a part to whole ratio. That's all the percent is. Part to whole ratio that we can write as right over 100. So I have my part for pence cc's. So that is going to be 18 over 40. So I need to change this. You can change this to a decimal or use a fancy formula. I'm just going to change it to a decimal. Since percent is per 100, I can look at my hundreds place to change it to a percent. So I can do 18 divided by 40. Put a 0 here. 40 goes into 18 0 times. You add your decimal point, add your 0, and the dividend. And then ask how many times does 40 go into 18? Well, you can ignore this 0. Ignore this 0. Ask yourself how many times does 4 go into 18? How much does 4 go into 18? I know 4 goes into 4 times 4 is 16, so that means 40 goes into 180 4 times. 4 times 40 is going to be 160. Then I have 20 left over. Add a 0, bring it down. 40 goes into 200 5 times. So this particular receipt is equivalent to 45%. How do I know that? Because 45 hundredths is equivalent to 45 hundredths, which is equivalent to 45%, because a percent is per 100. Alright, now we're moving on to the next one. So you have to find the percent of each one, then order them from least to greatest. So now I have the Snapdragon, and then the part to whole ratio that I want to find the percent is 21 out of 50. You get 21 questions right out of 50 on the test. What percent would that be? Well, you can figure that out by dividing 21 divided by 50. 50 goes into 21 0 times, add your decimal point, add your 0 in the dividend, and then ask yourself how many times is 50 going to 21 0 times, so you put 0. How many times is 50 going to 210? Now you can think of how many times does 5 go into 21? You can ignore these zeros. Think how many times is 5 going to 21? I know that answer is 4, so that means 50 goes into 210 4 times. 4 times 50 is 200. Subtract, you get 10, add another 0 in the dividend, bring it down. 50 goes into 100 2 times. So, since when we change this to a decimal, we get 0 and 42 hundredths, we know that's equivalent to 42 hundredths as a fraction, and since percent is per 100, we can say that this is equivalent to 42% per 100. Now we need to find the last one, and this is going to be the Alright, so we have 14, part to whole ratio is 14 per 35. Standard rule of division, drop the top number in. 14 divided by 35. 35 does not go into 14, you add a 0. As a decimal point, then add a 0 in the dividend. Now you can subtract and say, okay, this goes into the 0 times, and bring that down. That's a waste of time, but you can if you want to. So 35 goes into 140 4 times. 35 times 4, 20, 12 plus 2, 4. So we have 4, 140. So now we need to change this into a percent. You can multiply this by 100. Or you can say, okay, we know that 4 tenths is equivalent to 4 tenths as a fraction. But percent is per 100. So we need an equivalent ratio with a denominator that's per 100. What could we do? Multiply by 10. Multiply by 10. 4 times 10 is 40. So this one is 40%. Now we can order them from least percent to greatest percent. So the least percent, we just order them. And then we have 42%. And then we have the last one right here. And now we're done. So you change all of them to a percent by using the part to whole ratio. Change it to a decimal. Change the decimal to a percent, or you really don't even need to do all that, but you can. And then you have your answer. All right, moving on to the next question. This one is really easy. It's just like the last one. We have to. All right, so a musical group sells hats at their concerts. After one concert, they sold 120 out of 200 white hats and 210 out of 300 black hats. A greater percentage of what color hats were sold? Okay. Fill in the blanks and answer the question. Use the words and numbers in the box. Okay. The musical group sold blank white hats. So I only have percentages here. So I have to get a number. So since a percent is the rate that compares a number to 100, I know that I need to find the percent of white hats and put that right here. So if I look here, white hats is here, and that rate is 210 out of 200.
120
so
out of 200. 120.
120 out of 200. Standard long division bracket top number in 200 divided by 120. 120. Oh, standard long division bracket top number in 120 divided by 200. 200 is not going to 120, so you add a decimal point, add a 0, and then again, and ask yourself how many times does 200 go into 1200? Since 2 goes into 12 6 times, I know that this is going to be 6. So, how do you write 6/10 as a percent? 6/10 per 100 times 10 times 10, 60%. So we're going to put 60% here. And then we need to find the black hats. So this is white, this is black. Make sure you keep order of your work. The white hats is 60%. The black hats, that rate is 210 out of 300. So a percent is a ratio. The part to whole ratio, that compares the number to 100. So I have my part to whole. Then I'm going to change this part to whole ratio into a decimal. Standard long division bracket top number in. 300 does not go into 210, so you add your 0 and the dividend. 300, 3 goes into 21 3 times. I have 2 zeros here, 2 zeros there. I can ignore them. And I know that is going to be 7. So 300 times 7 is 2100. Now I have to change 7/10 into a percent. 7/10 times 10 is going to be 70%. And then the greater percentage of black hats were sold. So that one was pretty easy. Let's move on to the next one.
You could also divide and get a denominator of 100.
Number 5. Student in Mr. Toller's class is reading a book that has 280 pages. Formar decides to read 25% of the book each night. How many pages will Raymond read each night? 25% of the book. Well, 25% of the book means you're going to finish the book in 4 days. Plus 25 times 4 is going to be 100%. So you can easily divide 280 by 4 to get the answer. But I'm going to use a fancy formula. Part equals the percent of the whole. The whole is going to be the total number of pages in the book. Of is to multiply. The percent is 25 per 100, which is simplifies to 4. I put my equal sign. I'm looking for the part. So this simplifies to 1/4 times 280 equals x. And I'm looking for x, the part. So since this 25% represents what he reads each night, the part is going to be what the number of pages he reads each night. So then I have 280 times 1 is 280. 4 times 1 for the denominator is 4. And then to find x, I need to divide 280 divided by 4 to get 70. So he's going to read 70 pages per night. Is that a reasonable answer? Absolutely. Because 25% is equivalent to 70 pages. Another 25% is equivalent to another 70 pages, which is 140 pages. Another 25% is going to be 75% of the book, which is another 70 pages. And that's going to be 210 pages. And then another 25% of the book is going to be 100 pages. 100%, which is total book, which is 280. So yes, 70 pages is a reasonable answer.
To represent 25%.
Alright, now we're moving on to part B. Keep in mind, 280 pages. Alright. So part B. Nora already read 30% of the book before her teacher assigned it to the class. She is choosing between 2 options to finish reading the book. Option 1, read 25% of the remaining pages each night. Option 2, read 28 pages each night. Which option should Nora use to finish the book in the in the least amount of time. So that means the quickest. Fill in the blank to complete the statement. So Nora has already read blank pages. Oh, okay, so she already read 30% of 30% of the book. No fancy formula needed. But if I wanted to, it would look like this. Part equals percent of the whole. So the part that she completed, 30 per 100 is to multiply to 80. The part that she completed, I'll get that once I finish, once I find out what is 30% of 280. So 3/10 of 380. We can simplify this and see 3/10 times 280. I can cancel out the 0, cancel out the 0. That's dividing both by 10. 3 times 28, 28 times 3. 84. So X is equivalent to 84. What does that X represent? 30%. What does the 30% represent? The part that she already, the percent that she already finished. So what does that mean? That this variable is going to be the number of pages that she already finished, because they are equivalent to each other. So finish, X represents the number of pages she finished, so we're going to put 84 right here. So she has how many pages remaining? Well, if the total book was 280, and she already read 84 pages, we can subtract the whole minus what she already read to get the part that she still needs to read. So we need to regroup. And we end up with 196 pages remaining in the book. So Nora should choose which option. So if she has 196 pages, if she reads 25%, that means she's going to finish her book in 4 nights, because 25% plus 25% plus 25% plus 25% is 100. Or you can think of it like this. Well, it says option, she should choose which option? Option 1. Because it's we need to figure out how many days it's going to take her to finish the book. So we already know it's 4 nights, and then we need to figure out this part. Okay, so we know it's going to take her 4 nights to finish the first book. Now we need to figure out how many nights it's going to take her to finish the second option. So if she has 196 pages and she's going to read 28 pages each night, we're trying to figure out how many 28 pages, how many 28 page nights is it going to take us to end up with 196. So that is division. So how many 28s are in 196? That is division. And once you divide, you'll see that it's going to take 7 nights. Because 28 goes into 196 7 times. So it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nights to end up reading the whole book. Whereas option 1, you're going to read 25% of the book each night. So that means you would divide the pages by 4, but that doesn't matter in here because we have to figure out how many nights it will take her. So we already know it's going to take her 4 nights because we can think of quarters. How do you get to 100%? 4. So option 1 is going to be better because it will take her 4 nights, because 25% plus 25% plus 25% plus 25% is going to be the whole percent, which is the whole remaining pages that she had. So now we know it's going to take her 4 nights to finish instead of 7 nights with this 28 pages a night, which is option 2. And this one is option 1. Alright, so that is it. I hope I answered all of your questions. Make sure you study and get ready for this test.